Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from DailyRacingForm, the most trusted name in horse racing.
Hi everyone, David Aragona and Craig Milkowski here, taking a look at the Mistletoe Stakes on Saturday at Oaklawn Park. It is opening weekend at Oaklawn, and this one going as race 9 on their Saturday card. This race is for 3-year-old and up, fillies and mares going the mile distance around 2 turns on their main track. And Craig, in both these stakes races at Oaklawn Saturday, we've got fields of 7. This one feels pretty wide open, although we do have 2 established favorites on the morning line, led by the number 6, Lay DeVita, who is looking to make it 3 for 3 in the United States.
Yeah, it's a solid field. I would say it maybe is a borderline grade 3 with some of the credentials, but we do have some horses coming in some not maybe top form based on their last race or two.
Let's throw up the field of 7 runners for this race, and that number 6, Lay DeVita, is pegged as the 8-5 morning line favorite. And kind of along the lines of what Craig was saying, she's the horse that is in form right now. She's looking for her 3rd victory in a row since coming to this country from Chile for trainer Nacho Correas. And we'll talk about her a little bit more in just a bit, but she's a runner that does like to come from off the pace. So let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector to see how much pace Lay DeVita could get to run at in this race. And according to the pace projector, Craig, the answer is not much.
No, and it's hard to argue with that, with particularly when you see the horse shown on the clear lead is the 1-horse Coach. Not that she's a slow horse, and she has run a couple races where she's up on or near the lead, but she's certainly not one that I would even consider a front runner.
Yeah, Coach is a horse that, as you said, not one that likes to race on the front end, hasn't done it that many times in the past, but just given the lack of speed in this race, she could find herself there. I imagine the number 3, Lovely Ride, will get an aggressive ride from Christian Torres because she is one that has run well from the front end in the past. I think her connections will be aware of that. So I'd imagine one of those 2 will be leading this field early, and we'll see if Lay DeVita can overcome what could be a moderate tempo on the front end. Let's take a look at a new feature in TimeformUS before we check out the main contenders in this race, and that is the finish projector. You can find this on DRF.com in the mobile PPs when you go over to the TimeformUS tab. And Craig, this is a visual representation of the TimeformUS power picks, our top picks selected by the TimeformUS algorithm, and no surprise to see the number 1 Coach projected as the winner of this race because she makes sense on form, and that pace projector indicates she's supposed to get the right trip.
Yeah, it's got her shown on the front end, which she gets a boost for in those power picks when we have a race that doesn't have a lot of speed in there. I would question a little bit the 6-horse being so far back. I think that's something we have a little bit wonky in the algorithm where it's rating her races from Chile in there, even though she doesn't have ratings. So in this particular case, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in her being shown so far back.
She does get that late pace flag, indicating that she has the fastest late pace rating in this race. No surprise. So Lay DeVita likely to be closing fastest at the end. We'll see if she can overcome what we said could be a slow tempo on the front end. Let's begin with Lay DeVita as we march through the contenders in this race, and we'll take a look at her last out victory at Keeneland when she won as the 3-2 favorite, coming from off the pace to win going away this day. Craig, she's not a horse that likes to change over to her right lead. In both races that I've watched in the U.S., she just hangs on that left lead all the way, but it doesn't seem to deter her because she runs right through the wire, pulling away from this field late.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Usually you think of horses tiring when they do that, but not in her cases. In both starts, she's really powered her way to the finish line, drawing away in that last furlong to really open up. So I'm not going to put too much into that. If that's how she runs, we've seen that it's fast enough to compete with this group.
And she beat one of today's rivals last time, Will Secret. She is probably stepping up in class slightly, meeting some stakes-faced rivals here, but she doesn't have to improve that much on her recent speed figures. Those 111 and 114 TimeformUS speed figures are among the best recent numbers in this field, clearly the best recent numbers, I should say. So she certainly is the horse to beat in this Mistletoe. Her main rival, some might perceive to be the number 1 Coach as she goes out for the powerful Brad Cox stable. Let's take a look at her race 2 back in the Twixt at Laurel. And Craig, one of the reasons I chose this replay is because it was over a wet, sloppy track, and we could have similar conditions at Oaklawn Park on Saturday.
Yeah, it would certainly help. And based on her last race in the Chaluki, I just didn't really give her much of an excuse. She didn't do any running. But this race at Laurel was pretty good return. I think I actually picked her in that Chaluki Stakes based on it, if memory serves. She just didn't run well. But this would be her third start off the layoff. So maybe the second start, she took a little bit of regression. She certainly had the figures in the past to be competitive in a race like this.
Yeah, looking back, I question the form of that Twixt Stakes a little bit. She was beaten by a horse, Battle Bling, who did win a stakes after that, but a weak stakes at Aqueduct, and then came back to be a no-show in the Go for Wand last week on Cigar Mile Day. So Coach has some things to prove here. She looks to bounce back from that inexplicably poor effort last time in the Chaluki Stakes. Perhaps getting back around 2 turns will be the key to success with her, because she is a filly that has had much more success around 2 turns in the past. Another runner coming out of the Chaluki is the number 2 Ice Orchid. She finished ahead of Coach that day, checking in second behind the much the best winner, She Can't Sing. And Craig, this 3-year-old filly hasn't run that fast yet on the speed figure scale, but she still has some upside in just the 8th start of her career, and she has steadily been getting faster with each start.
Yeah, she was a filly who looked to be on the Oaks trail when she ran a good second behind eventual Oaks winner Secret Oath, but something obviously went wrong. She disappeared for about 6 months from the races, has come back and steadily improved her form and her speed figure each time out. So she would need to take a jump in this race to beat some of the others we talked about, but I don't think it's totally impossible based on that improving line we see.
Take a look at a couple runners that met up in a stakes at Horseshoe, Indianapolis, all the way back in July. And this was another race that was run over a wet racetrack. So that could be key for predictive power moving into this Mistletoe Stakes. Lovely Ride is the one in the pink silks who is taking over on the lead right now. She is going to get run down, though, by Semblé Juice, the Ken McPeak trainee, who just gets up in the shadow of the wire here. This wasn't the fastest race, Greg, but I thought that both of these fillies ran well. They have some back speed figures that do put them in the mix here.
They do. It's kind of weird. That race was way back in July, which seems like a pretty long time ago, but neither one of them have really had a chance to show whether that race was totally legit or not. I think one time Semblé Juice ran at Colonial on the dirt, didn't run particularly well, but other than that, they've been running on turf and synthetic in their few tries. So I'm not sure what to make of either one of them. I think they would have to get faster, so likely I would be against them.
Yeah, she's kind of an odd one, Semblé Juice, because she has a turf pedigree. She's an Irish bred, but she's really run her best races on the dirt in this country, and especially wet dirt racetracks. If you just isolate those muddy and sloppy track races over sealed tracks, that's where she's run her best. So we'll see if she's able to translate that form here, though. Kind of like Le Davida, she is a closer who's going to need a little bit of pace help up front. And the horse that might have better position than her is the number 3 Lovely Ride, the one that was just nosed out in that stakes at Horseshoe Indy. And Craig, what I find interesting about her is that stakes that we just watched, it's the only dirt race that she's run in about the past year or so. They've tried her on turf a few times, synthetic last time, which she just hated. I don't want to put too much stock in those races on different surfaces. And when I look back at her dirt races, she's actually run some of her best efforts on the dirt.
Yeah, not necessarily speed figure wise, but certainly from finish position. I mean, that race was fine. It was in the mud, which, as you've mentioned, might come in handy on Saturday, as it looks like it's a good chance at an off track. So she would definitely have to get faster. That 100 speed figure that day is not going to cut it, but I just said she had some races in the past that could make her a contender.
Yeah, she actually ran in this race last year and finished third behind a couple of runners going the mile and 16th a little bit farther at Oaklawn Park, and this will be just her second dirt race since then. Let's finish things up with one more runner who has had success at Oaklawn in the past. That is the number 4, Will Secret, actually 2 for 2 over this race course when she was a 3-year-old, winning stakes races in the Martha Washington and the Honeybee. Kind of went the wrong way for a while after that. Dwayne Lucas is now her trainer, trying to work her back in the right direction. She does come off a victory, but she was beaten pretty resoundingly by Le Davida 2 back.
She's one that, as you said, she was kind of on the Oaks Trail. Actually tried to go Grade 1 Ashland, where she ran in the Malathot. Didn't go very well. She was shortly after that wound up with some time off, a barn change. And for me, she just hasn't gotten any faster. She's been running okay in weaker competition, but this seems like a bit of a step up to me.
Let's take a look at our top picks in this Mistletoe Stakes. And Craig, you're going to go with the now horse, the number 6, Les David. And I really can't fault you, because you can question the form that a lot of these runners are in. Not so her, because she's coming in off 2 of the best races of her career.
Yeah, she has the last 2 speed figures are better than what we've seen from the other horses in here. And what really swayed me was the way she was able to overcome a slow pace in her North American debut, something that she's likely to face again. She showed she's a little versatile, handling the fast pace second out, but I just think she's the best filly, and I wasn't too excited trying to beat her, given the form of some of the others.
Yeah, you can see Craig and I are both taking a negative view of that other short price, the number 1 Coach. I never like when these Brad Cox trainees fail to show up at short prices, and that's what happened to her last time in the Chiluki. So we're trying to beat her. I'm going in a different direction with a bigger price on the number 3, Lovely Ride. I'm just hoping that she gets an aggressive ride and is sent to the front end here, because that could be a real advantage. I think that early position is going to matter a lot in this race, and hopefully she handles the surface conditions and is able to take that step forward to get back to some of her better dirt races in the past for trainer Robertino Diodoro. But that is a look at the Mistletoe Stakes on Saturday at Oaklawn Park. Good luck if you're playing this weekend.